We don't have any sign up. Everybody signed up today? Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the July 10th Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting and ask if you have cell phones, pagers, or similar devices, if you would turn those off or silence them now. We would appreciate you doing that. If you are not the applicant and you are here to address us about a case on the agenda today, there are sign-up sheets that are about this size. They're on the table right outside the chambers, and if you will fill those in, indicate which case you're interested in, we'll be happy to hear you when we hear the case. And Commissioners, first item of business is the June 26 minutes. I think there may be a correction, Janice. You may not have voted no on a case where you thought you didn't realize you'd not switched your seat.
I think that's right, and I actually did not notice it when I was going through the minutes, but it has been brought to my attention since.
So with that correction to the minutes?
Yes. Don't ask.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Cast your votes. And the minutes are approved. Continuance requests?
Here we have 3 uncontested requests. Item B23 for PUD 1545 to defer to August 14th. Item B24, C 6624, defer to August 14th. And item B25, PC 10368 to withdraw completely.
Is anyone here today to talk to us about the items just read, 23 through 25 on our agenda?
Move the uncontested continuance.
We have a motion and a second to approve the uncontested continuances. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
We have 4 new requests for continuance. Item B11 for PUD 1524 to defer to August 14th. Item B14 for case C6539, defer to September 11th. Item B17 for PUD 1535 to defer to August 14th. And item B22, case C6629 to defer indefinitely.
Same question again. Is there anyone here today who came to talk to us about items 11, 14, 17, or 22 on our agenda?
Move the additional continuance.
We have a motion and a second to approve the additional continuances. Cast your votes, and they are approved. Are there any continuance requests from the public today? Okay, we'll go to the consent docket.
There were 4 items on the consent docket, and we've been asked to pull item 2 from consent to items requiring separate vote. So item 1 on consent is case C6625, the final plat of Brighton Point, Phase 4, located east of County Line Road and south of Southwest 44th. Item 3 is to initiate an application to rezone 924 Southeast 44th from I-1 and ABC3 to the I-1 zoning district. And item 4 is SN081, a resolution changing the name of Green Oaks Drive to Green Canyon Drive on Bryant Avenue, a half mile south of Memorial.
And we have no one signed up to address us on any of those items?
Move approval of the items on the consent docket.
Second. That's items 1, 3, and 4. Cast your votes. Those are approved. We'll now hear the individual items, and we'll take item 2 in order.
Item 2 for C6628, the final plat of Canterbury, Section 3, located north of Southwest 44th Street and east of Mustang Road.
Good afternoon, Jason Spencer with Grafton Toll here on behalf of the applicant. This is the last phase of Canterbury. It's approximately 20 acres, 59 single-family lots. It conforms to the preliminary plat and subdivision regs. Staff's recommended approval, and we agree with the TEs. I believe one of the neighbors does have some comments.
And who is that neighbor? Give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Mary Beach, and I live at 4209 Johnson Farms Drive.
Okay, and tell us what your concern is, please.
Well, I bought my house in February, and it borders Canterbury, and somebody dumped dirt in my back, and they put, I have the easement there. It goes way up. and my fence, then they stuck the fence on. I moved in February, and I couldn't, they said they'd fix the backyard, and they put a fence up there, and I looked in the back of the fence, it drops completely off, drops 36 feet down. And my backyard washes out under the fence. I've put sod, every week practically, I put dirt there trying to contain it, which will be running into Canterbury. There is a sewer line on my property. It says on this that it's 8 feet deep. It says 10 feet deep when I called the utilities. I think they're measuring from when they put the new dirt in, or are they measuring when it was flat?
Can you show us where on the map here your home is, so I can...
Well, it's block 15 on Johnson Farms Drive. It should border 2 lots in back of me when they do the new Canterbury addition.
And there's a 6-foot grade separation between the 2 housing additions?
36 feet.
36 foot. What are we...
Pardon? Okay. There's houses on both sides of me. One's being built, and the other one, they just moved into it. The girl said she'd try to come here today, but she didn't. And then the rest of it fixed. The people don't even live in it yet. They're just finishing these houses, so there's nobody here to represent it, except me, which that's a poor choice, but...
excuse me, tell me again, the grade, you're telling me the grade separation between the 2 housing additions is what?
If you go, where they put the fence up in my back, which is the end of mine, exactly, it drops down 36 feet.
3 to 6 or 36?
36.
36 feet?
Can you...
I took a yardstick. Wait, not 36 inches it has to be. Because I took a yardstick out there, but it's a big drop, and it's a big drop, and the dirt goes under. I keep putting sod there, and everything, but it's going to continue to do that.
Okay, well, let us hear from the applicant now, if we may. Thank you.
There is a gas line easement that runs on our side of the property line that backs up to her property. We're typically tying in with the existing grade at that gas line easement, but as I told her, outside of taking down her contact information, we'd be more than happy to take a look and see if we have the ability to try to correct any of the grade difference there, but obviously we will have to go through the gas line company to place fill on that property.
Does the grade slope, is your subdivision, Canterbury, generally higher, and does the land run?
We're generally lower than the neighboring property, and I don't know the specifics about on her backyard. We've got if you look, those lots on the east of St. Augustine Drive, which would be our proposed lots that'll back up to her existing lot, they have some extra length in them because there is an existing gas line easement back there. For that reason, we're having to leave those long to stay out of that gas line easement and also run our own sewer line through there.
Mr. Chairman, I think she had a picture that she wanted to show us.
Oh, well, let's...
Did you have a picture? You didn't? I don't have a camera. Oh, what did you have in your hand there? Was that just a...
This is from the city. It's the water department.
Okay.
It shows that, see, it doesn't tell if it's the original. I'm a teacher. I throw my voice.
You know what I mean. It doesn't tell if this 8 foot is from the original level or after they dumped the dirt on it.
So is yours higher than theirs?
Yes.
Okay.
And as you go down the road, eventually that starts to go down. they didn't dump dirt there. Somebody dumped dirt there, got rid of it instead of hauling it away. And my mind was, how did this ever get approved in the first place? You know?
But your
It was a
property,
sneaky deal.
your property's higher,
Yes, much higher.
and Canterbury's going to drain on your property?
He's worried about it washing off.
Oh,
Her backyard is washing away.
oh,
Just-
okay.
And
okay.
like I say, I put sod there.
All right, I understand.
I have got permission to get dirt from next door, but that's not going to happen much longer because the house is being built. And my poor grandson, he's carrying it now. I can't carry it anymore.
I don't know how to solve that.
I got a question for JJ, maybe. JJ, is there any requirement that they would have to put a retaining wall up there, or what is the deal? Is her property the problem? In other words, is that drop-off, is that her property?
It's hard to tell.
It's the easement.
It's in the easement, but it's probably need to get somebody to just go out and look at it and see what the issue is.
When I first moved in, I called the city, and they told me just the same as tough, you know. I tried to take care of it right away, but I couldn't. But I thought, this is my last chance, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
Anybody have a solution? I don't.
Well, I do have a suggestion, 2 points. One, I don't know that her problem is necessarily
Yes.
related to this
Right.
particular application. She's here to take advantage of her
The forum.
time, and I appreciate that, but the final plat before us probably not part of the problem. That said, I think JJ's idea was good. If we could have someone from Public Works go out there and look at it, and see if the guy on the other side, the gas companies, if they've properly backfilled that line, if they've maintained the integrity of it. But it sounds like the natural drainage just comes off of your land and it goes.
It can't be natural if it's that high compared to the other side of the fence.
Well, and that's why I said what I did about the possibility of properly backfilling when they put in the gas line. Someone probably just needs to look at it.
And there may be an issue, if this is a gas pipeline easement, to put a retaining wall there, to put something on the easement that's permanent, that protects your property.
Yeah, there's
It's a
about,
puzzle.
I say at least 4 houses that,
Same way?
yeah.
It's kind of like Nick says, it really has nothing to do with the zoning here, but is it the problem with the development that she lives in, or is it the development that's been proposed that has the problem?
Who built it up? I don't know.
All right, well,
I can't get it out of anybody.
The point is, we need to go ahead and approve this because the issue is separate from this
Right.
final plat.
See, I always
JJ's
thought our addition was the one that was going to be there. That's what I was told one time by the guy who come out to evaluate for them.
Well, JJ's suggestion is what should happen, which is someone from Public Works should go out and actually go on site, look at it,
Yeah.
and figure out what the solution is. We can't do that here, so.
Right.
We appreciate your time, and I'm
And I
glad you came down,
appreciate you
but
doing that.
I'm sorry, we can't
I
fix
understand
it.
that. But I thought I'd better try,
Well,
because I'm putting up with it. I
We'll
don't
get-
know what I'm going to do, but I'll have to.
we'll
figure
have somebody go out and look at it. JJ, will you follow up on that, please?
And like I say, I go back there, I went back there and I look, when it gets down toward the end down there, then it slopes way back down, and they have a regular backyard. But then it's up for about 6 houses, and then it goes down again. So I think they just dumped dirt there and then put the utilities in.
Well, again, we thank you for
So,
being here.
thank you.
Motion?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 2. Cast your votes. And they didn't light up. Underneath, you know how to do that? Apparently.
There you go.
There we are. And item 2 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to item 5, CE 884 to close the west 414 feet of Northwest 132nd Street and the platted public utility easements within Santa Fe and Memorial Business Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Brian Kuhn with you as always representing the applicant. I talked with Mr. Brummett about this. There is currently a sewer line and a water line out in the street right-of-way of which we are going to relocate, but this is the first step. We have to go through here first, and then the council to get the closure, and then we do our improvements, relocate those pipeline, or the utilities, and then go to district court. So I agree with both TEs. Would like to ask on TE2 that you put the same comment as on number 1, that the frontage easements and everything will be reserved until we relocate the lines. So.
Okay, no one signed up, Commissioners?
Utilities Department's acceptable with that.
I'm sorry?
Utilities Department's acceptable with that.
Okay, good, thank you. So, we have a second? Okay. Motion and second to approve item 5, amending TE2. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Thank you.
Item 6 is PUD 1551 to rezone 9735 West Memorial from AA to PUD 1551.
I'm Lex Gudania with MGR Inc. There is one correction requested by us. It's on page 9 of 11 on staff report. Once that is done, I agree with all the Ts.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand it.
There is a staff report has recommended something on item 6, C6.
Right?
And staff is here. He can explain about the background on that.
Nathan Manuel, again with Utilities. The correction will be that the lot lines can encompass our water line easement.
Say that again?
So item number 9C6 would be stricken. So,
Stricken.
yes.
So we strike your comment at number 6, right?
Yes, sir.
On page 9. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions on this? Anybody signed up?
No one signed up.
Okay, I'll move approval of the application, noting that page 9, section C, item number 6, be stricken from the staff report, or deleted from the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 6, deleting TE6. Cast your votes.
Well, it's not a TE, it's
wasn't
actually
TE.
item 6 on
Item
page
6, you're
9.
right. Okay, sorry.
C.
Cast your votes. That's approved. Thank you.
Okay, item 7 is C6595, the preliminary plat of Country Grove Estates located north of Memorial and east of Morgan Road.
It's the same comment, if I can. And once that is done, I agree with all the Ts.
Okay, I'll make the same motion then.
Well, I have a question
Okay.
for the applicant.
Whose ward is
There's
this?
actually 2 questions. The block length of Pelican Bay Road, beginning from that corner up to the curve, how long is that?
It's less than 1,500 foot. 1 minute, I'm sorry.
It's, you know, it's that,
No,
it's longest block
it
on
is,
the
it
west
has,
side.
it is something close to 30, about 2,200, 2,300 foot.
That concerns me. You know, there's a straight block racetrack.
Well, there is, just a second, Bob, I think there is, if you see at 40th Street, there's a stub. Is that a stub? That's the access onto Morgan Road, so I count about 19 lots south of that, if I'm counting right. Could 27 minus 8, and then looks like only about 10 more to the north of that. So I think they break up the long block length there with that access
With the
out.
side streets coming in, that's what you're talking about,
Yeah,
Mike?
that access out into Morgan. That's their main collector on the west side, and I think it breaks that block up. That was mine to look at it, at least.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, see?
Oh, that's where the 40th Street entrance for Alpha Morgan. That's where
Exactly.
you are.
Exactly.
So you're going to go halfway and then halfway?
Correct.
Something like that. Okay. Second question is the common areas, the center common area, is that proposed for like a clubhouse or a pool, or what's
There will
it?
be recreation amenities for children, like slides, swings, and those kind of things.
Okay. And the common area on the northwest side?
We can put some benches. We are not going to disturb that area very much because it is Corps of Engineers 404 permit area, and we will just go ahead and put benches and keep the creek in place. We will not disturb the creek.
And the access is that little wedge that you
And
have?
also it can be from Morgan Road.
Oh, can you get into it from Morgan Road? You can get into it from there? On Morgan Road, there's a way to get in there?
Right.
Okay, all right, that's all I had.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 7. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8 is SPUD 770 to rezone 600 Southeast 51st Street from R1 to SPUD 770.
My name is Earl Smeltzer. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. And what we're attempting to do is take this piece of land and put 4 duplexes on it. The value of each duplex around $200,000 each to bring the property value up in the area. And it allows it to be an investment property. If we tried to go with just single dwelling houses, it wouldn't make it worth the profit.
No one signed up, Commissioners?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 8. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item 9 is SPUD 772 to rezone 3608 Northwestern from R1 to SPUD 772.
Hi, Casey Kaiser, co-owner of the property, along with Charlie Bullard, whose name I believe is on the docket. We are wanting to rezone it from residential to an SPUD. It will have limited commercial retail uses as well as general office use. We are surrounded by a lot of retail. We're kind of on the southern end of a lot of the commercial spaces, but we're just adjacent to the north side with 2 other retail uses, as well as on the northwest corner. And also directly across the street from us is the Boys and Girls Club. So there's a lot of foot traffic, as well as they're they're putting money into that park, Memorial Park across the street. So we think that rezoning it to office use as well as limited retail use would certainly increase the value of that property as well as the properties around it.
Janice?
When I first spoke to Ms. Bullard about this property, she had indicated that they were thinking about doing limited commercial use at this property, and that causes me some serious concern at this location. When I asked the staff for a copy of the actual PUD document, what I got indicated that they were going to do office, and I decided I was pretty much okay with that idea. I have a real concern about the conversion of residential properties along Western, period. This particular lot is a little bit unique because it actually fronts onto Western, and it sort of sides up to a well-established and maintained residential property to the south, but it has commercial property to the north of it. So I think I would be okay with the idea of it being converted from residential use, but not to commercial use. They have a grand total of 5 parking spaces. Parking is at a premium in this location. And the uses that they've set forth for retail are not limited, they're general and they're wide open, and I can support use of the property for office use. I don't think that it will set a negative precedent along Western. I'm absolutely opposed to the idea of stripping Western out or conversion of residential properties along Western. But the unique location of this one, I think, would permit its use for something other than residential property, but not for retail. And if you're willing to amend, I had spoken to Ms. Bullard this morning. She seemed to think that she would be. But if you're willing to amend the application to office use, I can support it. If not, then I cannot.
Okay. And is that mainly off of the parking spaces or just the fact of where it's actually located?
Both. It is both. I do not think that this is an appropriate location for retail. It's too far off the corner, for one thing.
Okay. And I guess in just looking at that as well, it's probably maybe, separated by the Crown Heights florist as well as the garage I've spoken with Kevin Trim, who owns that, who is going to be using that garage probably for a different use in the very, very near future. So we're separated by them. We actually will share an easement as well as almost a driveway with them. So in looking at that, for there being, retail and commercial use for them, we're very close proximity to them as well.
And I think that's one reason why office would provide a good step down between that commercial use and the residential properties south.
I'm sorry, I missed some of that.
I said I think that's one reason why office use at this location would provide a step down from the commercial uses further north to the residential properties on the south. So.
Okay. Well, that's, using it as office space would certainly be more beneficial than not having, just having it be residential. So I definitely think that's something that we could look into.
Has the neighbors said anything about the neighbors on the south side?
We've actually spoken with them. They were thrilled that we were going to be changing it. We were very upfront with everybody that we've met and introduced ourselves to, and letting them know what our potential uses were going to be. I know that they were very excited for the potential of it to be retail as well as office space. The gentleman who owns the home, I think it's his family, that is directly south of us, I guess recently had his property appraised about a year ago. We bought this property at a foreclosure, and it was abandoned and in extremely bad shape whenever we got a hold of it. I guess that they had a lot of issues there before, and because of that, his property had devalued in an appraisal form, $30,000. So he was extremely excited to see that become, retail, residential, office, anything that it really could be.
Let me throw my 2 cents worth in. I agree with Janice. When I read the application, for years, neighborhoods like this that are on kind of an arterial street converted to tax lawyers' offices, massage parlors, et cetera, and just without zoning. And meant that once this occurs, the commercial activity that's there right now should never have been approved because it's not, it's not a corner thing. But once that was done, and then if you put retail and all the uses that you want that aren't related to office, it's one after another, it's the domino effect. And that's why I will support it if it's an office use only. But I don't support it at all for retail because your next door neighbor, well, I can do that. And then we would be hard pressed to say no because it just kind of goes down the block. And I think we have to preserve residential neighborhoods as much as we can, particularly in this part of the world. So I agree with Janice. I would vote in favor of it if you restrict it to office.
Okay. And I appreciate that. Thank you. And I certainly agree that the domino effect, has its weight in this. I would say that the only difference that I could see would be that this is the only residential property in that proximity that fronts Western. Everything else fronts 35th Street, 34th Street, and so forth, all the way down to 23rd, until you get, I think there may be one property off of 24th Street that faces Western as well that is already commercial.
That's not an accurate statement. There are properties along Western that front onto Western. But the point is that this property is not suitably located for retail use. So if you're not willing to amend it, I'm going to move for denial.
Well, I understand the no retail when it's really hardcore retail, but this is pretty watered down retail. I understand it's retail, but I'm not looking at a hardcore C3.
Retail sales and services general.
Specifically limited,
Well,
though.
specifically limited too, and when you look at those uses, you know, I don't see any hardcore stuff in there. Plus, it's a very small site. You know, I know it's retail. I appreciate that, but it, like I said, it appears to me to be pretty watered down retail.
And if I could say something, the MAPS project's redoing all the sidewalks in there, creating more foot traffic for everyone to walk around, and they're really making that area up and coming with all the commercial and retail. So with the park putting in $2 million across the street and all the sidewalks being revamped along Western, to us, it's going to allow people in those residential areas to be walking out on the sidewalk to be able to come to retail. So the parking, in my mind, isn't a big deal to me. There's 6 spots in the back, not 5, including a handicap. And it's all in the back. It's not parking in the front. It's all hidden in the back side of the property. And by having it as a retail, not only are you increasing the value in that area, you're increasing the values in the neighborhoods around and allowing people to walk up and down the sidewalks. So that's another reason why we feel retail would be very beneficial for that area.
Do you need convenience store or convenience sales and personal services? I mean, you've already got retail sales and services, general, specifically limited. Do you need that other category?
Not particularly. I think that on the convenience store, we just had that as not being permitted. So the main things are just listed right there under retail sales and services, and then retail, yeah. So I think those are the only ones that we'd be applying for, would just be...
In fact, the only thing you'd use it as an eating establishment for would be like a tea room or something. I mean, it's not...
I mean, a coffee shop, you know,
Not gonna
something
lend it-
along those lines. Nothing, no, not a convenience store or restaurant or something that has alcohol by any means. Nothing along those lines.
I'm sorry, I don't get this. They're talking about specifically limiting, but what they're talking about is home and business goods, antiques, a gallery. I remember the discussion about the gallery at 41st Street that now has outdoor sales and storage. Gifts, baked goods at retail, tea and coffee, camera, clothing, candy, cosmetics, electronics, flowers. That doesn't sound terribly limited to me. And you're talking about general retail use at this location. It's got a grand total of 5 parking spaces. It's way too far off the corner, and it's the conversion of a residential unit along Western. I really don't think we ought to get this started.
I have the parking, do you guys have the parking plan? I have a copy of it if you'd like to see what it's going to look like.
We do, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, this is a SPUD. I mean, this is something that we're not following any guidelines. It's kind of, we're creating our own with this SPUD. So the 5 parking spots, again, yeah, I mean, you could have 1 parking spot. I mean, we're having 5, actually 6 with a handicap. And again, it's in the back. There's a loading and unloading zone, so it's a 2-way coming in and out of the back. There's a handful of shops downtown that have 3, 4 spots. So, and with what we're wanting to do as far as retail, you wouldn't have more than 6 people there at one time. Even if it was an office space, you could potentially have more than 6 people there working, you know, so, or, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. And going back to the uses of the general retail, we tried to get a pretty watered-down version to make sure, as Mr. Gills had mentioned. Is there anything in particular that could be amended amongst those uses that would be more pleasing to you all?
I don't think that this is an appropriate location for retail. I suppose you could go through and narrow it down to maybe 1 or 2 uses if you had a specific idea of what you wanted to do with the property. But I think once you put a general retail designation on the property, that's what it's for. I mean, that's what it's going to be. There's no control over what it's going to be used for, unless it's, you know, specifically limited to a single use. And we haven't had great luck with that along Western, I'll remind you. I just don't think this is a good idea. If you're not willing to limit it to office, I'm going to move for denial.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for denial. Any further discussion, Commissioners? Cast your votes. It is denied.
Item 10, PUD 1547 to rezone 9420 West I-40 Service Road from AA, R1, I2, and SRO to PUD 1547.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Kelly Work, and my address is 105 North Hudson, Suite 304, Oklahoma City. And I am here representing the applicants in connection with this PUD for the proposed Epic paintball facility. And present also today with me representing the applicants are Randy Coles and Thane Swisher. And we just received last night, and I think you all have been provided with copies of letters of support from the families that live and own the properties that are located to the south of our proposed PUD. They're across on the south side of what is called Mustang Creek that connects with the North Canadian River just to the east of this site. But what is proposed here in this PUD, it's about 130 acres, and we're proposing to add as an additional permitted use to the existing base zoning districts a recreational paintball facility, and what is proposed is that it would be a professionally run and operated, well-regulated and supervised facility that would be family-oriented and cater to groups such as corporate groups and church groups and Boy Scouts and birthday parties and individuals. It is the plan is to have this really be another additional amusement attraction for Oklahoma City and for this area along the river. And on that site plan, the exhibit that you see on your screen, you can see the different tracts that are identified, and I wanted to just bring to your attention that the tract 6 is actually owned by, that is included within the PUD, is actually owned by the City of Oklahoma City and managed by the Riverfront Redevelopment Authority. It was property that was originally donated by the Swisher family to the city for the original String of Pearls Park plan. And we have requested and received approval from the Riverfront Redevelopment Authority to lease that 20 acres to include it as a part of this proposed paintball facility. So that has been approved. It is, of course, subject to approval by the City Council, which would occur after this rezoning is approved, if it is. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. It was important for us to, that area is actually in the floodway, that is the area that is owned by the city. So it's not really able to be developed with structures or other physical improvements, but it is heavily wooded, and there also is a road that extends through it that will allow us to connect the sites to the north and west with that southern portion of the PUD property. So there, it will provide us with access, and then at some point, not immediately, but at some point, maybe in a year or two, that area may also be incorporated into the paintball activities. It will require a lot of clearing of underbrush. All the trees would remain, and there's an activity that they refer to as woods ball that's popular among paintball users, so it would be available for that type of use as well. The MAPS trails, as you all are aware, are in the process of being extended along this section of the North Canadian River on the east side of the river. And we have provided under the terms of the PUD that we'll have on our side, on the west side, we'll have a 75-foot natural buffer that will remain and where there won't be any paintball activity. Of course, there's quite a bit of separation just by virtue of the river, but we just wanted to provide that extra measure of protection to make sure that we didn't have any conflict of the paintball activity and the activity that's going on, that will be going on along the MAPS trail when that gets constructed. We're not aware of any protest, and we had met with and explained our proposal to those residents that own those homes that actually take access from Southwest 15th Street. And they also are separated from us by Mustang Creek, and there's also a lot of heavily wooded areas between us and them as well. Their biggest problem with this area has been and remains today that there's a lot of trespassing and a lot of recreational activity that goes on that includes just firing of guns and four-wheelers, and so they're pleased, as they stated in their letter, that there is going to be some activity, commercial activity that will be going on here and some control over this area to hopefully cut down on the amount of trespassing and other activities that are going on. I'll be happy, there's other information. We're in agreement with the recommendations that the staff has made in the staff report. The paintballs that will be used will be required to be field only. So if participants are coming to participate on our field, they'll be required to use the paintball that we provide. It is a biodegradable, water-soluble substance, and so there's not an environmental problem that would be created by the use of those types of paintballs. There are paintballs facilities, other ones that are located that are not in the city limits. So there are quite a number of paintball enthusiasts in the Oklahoma City area, but presently they have to go out of Oklahoma City to engage in this recreational activity. So this is going to be an opportunity to have those enthusiasts have a place to go, and then hopefully gain some new ones as well. So we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have about the PUD. What we've done, as I mentioned, is we've left as the base zoning what exists presently, and have just added to this recreational paintball facility as an additional permitted use. I also wanted to mention there was some concern about the proximity to I-40, and we have provided under the terms of the PUD that the only activity that would be related to the paintball facility for Tract 1, which is the closest to I-40, will be parking and access and ingress and egress. There won't actually be any paintball activities permitted under the terms of the PUD in that Tract 1. So we'll have, that's about 1,000 feet of separation there between the frontage of I-40 and where the paintball fields will be able to be located. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
I have a reference to TE number 2 about how you control that substance, people coming in. But my real question is Tract 1. It's included in your PUD.
Yes, sir.
And the Tract 1 uses includes a billboard. It includes large gasoline. You haven't mentioned Tract 1 at all. And your PUD allows, 30, 40 uses, truck stops. It allows all that to happen without any plan whatsoever of how that's going to fit in. All you've talked about is paintball. And all I see is a giant truck stop with billboards and flashing lights and everything else. I delete that from the whole thing, except for ingress, egress, because I really don't want to see us approving something that's a PUD that has a plan that has no plan whatsoever for Tract 1 on an appearance corridor. It's just, it's really inconsistent, particularly when you say partly of your PUD is in conflict with what you've listed on the uses, that you say on 9.10.3, non-accessory signs are specifically prohibited, yet the uses that you've listed is a non-accessory sign. I mean, I think you just, delete this from the whole thing and just go with paintball.
I think, Mr. Bry, I think it may be helpful for your concern to know, well, first of all, the existing zoning on Tract 1 is I-2. So we're not proposing to change.
You've got a PUD coming into the picture. That means that you're rezoning this whole area to accommodate your paintball, which I'm not opposed to. That's, except for controlling the ammunition and the biodegradable issue. I'm not opposed to that. I think it's probably okay, and it's a good recreational place. And I fully understand that the base zoning, but this is a PUD. We need a plan.
Well, let me ask, the simple answer is this, Bob, that if we alter the base zoning, Mr. Work's proposed paintball operation will not happen. Because if I own that land, it's over. I'm not going to get, potentially I would not give up my zoning that I already have merely to accommodate this paintball. That's kind of, as a commercial proposition, that would be my thought.
Why is it part of the PUD?
Just look at it this way. Now, look at it this way. There are multiple zoning tracts here. What they are proposing is to add one use to those multiple tracts, paintball. Why they're proposing to add that is because of the rather difficult access to where they actually want their paintball field. Okay? Mm-hmm. The development plan is to do some paintball fields on the southern part, on the interior southern part of all these tracks. But to access it, they have to come through these other tracks. Well, Track 1's I-2. Right next to that I-2 is the old manufacturing facility in the test track, which is also heavy industrial. It's a simple use overlay.
Yeah, this is just a lease.
Yeah.
This is just a lease.
That's correct.
I mean,
well, and that, on top of everything else, part of it is River Trust land that's leased.
Right.
But part of it's private land, and Mike's point's well taken.
Well, it's the same point that Sam's Club on 39th and May, the reason why we couldn't get that piece in there because they wanted it all to be, the Hickey Dodge place, because it's zoned I-1 and I-2 and it shouldn't be. They didn't want to lose that. Same reason.
Well, but you're saying frontage on I-40 shouldn't be zoned I-2? Next to a major manufacturing facility that's zoned I-2?
No, but it's within the PUD, and so...
Well, I respect that. I mean, I get it. I'm not arguing your point that it's within the PUD. I'm approaching this from a pure commercial reality standpoint.
And I don't disagree.
If I own I-40 and wherever it is, Morgan Road,
zoned I-2,
frontage, and it's zoned I-2, right next, as Nick says, right next to it, that's worth a lot more to me, potentially, in the long term, no respect to Mr. Coles and his paintball operation, than the paintball facility. It just is.
Well, we have to have that Tract 1 included in the PUD in order to gain access to the paintball activities. It's the only way we can come in and out. And the owner of Tract 1 does not desire to reduce the level of zoning that they have presently.
I can't imagine why.
I can't either.
well, in that case, you've made their case, so let's have a motion.
Move approval of the application.
Second.
The motion and second to approve item 10. Cast your votes.
Thank you very
And
much.
it's approved. Thank you.
Item 11 was continued. Item 12 is C-6626, the preliminary plat of Monarch Ridge located east of MacArthur and south of Northwest 164th Street.
Good afternoon, Barry Lodge, Red Rock Engineering, representing the applicant. Also have with me today Richard Stepp with the developer, in case we have any questions for him. This preliminary plat is for a 20-acre development, residential, 67 residential lots, gives us a density of 3.35 lots per acre. Staff report indicates that the design is all in conformance with the subdivision regs, and we've read the TEs, have no objection to those, and so we request your approval.
Commissioner, no one has signed up. We're going to save some trees, Barry?
We'll save as many of them as we can in those common areas.
How about where you're building around houses? I mean, you've got an awful lot of nice trees in there.
So we'll save as many as we can. We haven't tried to lay out anything to specifically save specific trees, but I think there's some opportunity in some, especially some of the deeper lots that are in the middle.
Yeah, I just hope you don't clear cut the whole site except for the common areas, my point.
Yep. We haven't laid anything out on, grading wise, so I couldn't tell you today that, we're going to save a whole lot of trees out there. But we'll save what we can out there for sure.
Sharing a thought. Okay.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 12. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 13 is C-6631, the final plat of Crestone Ridge 1, located west of County Line Road and north of Wilshire.
Keith Beatty with Vision Associates representing the applicant today. I'll be glad to take any questions you might have of me.
No one has signed up. I understand we need to modify TE4. Is that right?
Yes, we've worked out a modification with staff and would appreciate that being included. And with that, we'll agree to meet the Ts with that amendment.
What is the modification, just so I have an overview?
I've got it in front of me. I'm just having a chance to read it.
Basically, east of Crestone Drive on Northwest 81st Street, we're removing that from this plat, and we'll include it with the plat to the east with the villas at Crestone plat, which you'll see in about 1 month.
So that's going to be the gated portion, right? East of
Crestone Drive.
Crestone Drive.
On Northwest 81st Street, sir.
Right. That little long strip there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I may have missed something. Are sidewalks proposed in this subdivision?
Yes, we will include sidewalks.
I didn't see that.
It's required by subdivision regulations.
And I don't
It's a
see-
requirement by subdivision regulations.
But it usually
We'll say something.
says something about sidewalks will be, like at the time the building permit is done.
We will meet the requirements of the subdivision requirements for sidewalks. Yes, sir.
Anybody signed up? Okay. I'll move approval of the application.
Including the revised?
Including the revised
TE4.
TE4 with respect to the east side.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 13, including revised TE4. Cast your votes. And it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have the language, don't you?
Item 14 was continued. Item 15 is CE-879, to close a portion of Southeast 27th Street between South Phillips and South High.
Good afternoon. I'm Webster Madole, 845 Southeast 29th Street. This item's a continuation, but we have a few more members here today, so I'll briefly cover the overview. Are you able to bring up the slides that we sent by chance? Do you guys, yes, okay, perfect, you guys got it, okay, great. So just a brief overview of Cameron. We've operated at the facility since 1946, a long time, Oklahoma City community member, fortunate enough to employ over 400 employees. Really committed to being a community partner. We work extensively with Lee Elementary School, which is just down the street from us, underprivileged school. I've done that for 4 years now. In addition, we've made some real strides to try to beautify the neighborhood, some opportunity in the neighborhood for that, and we've tried to support that along with some other community investment. Taking a look at slide 2, I'll give you a feel for the current layout. So the streets there, on the west is Phillips, on the south is Southeast 29th, on the east is High, and the North Street is 27th. We operate 100% on both the north and south side of 27th Street between Phillips and High. One item I wanted to clarify from earlier discussions on this is in regards to the public traffic that operates on 27th Street. We do have video surveillance on that street, so we took a large data sample of video surveillance, and a question had been asked before about, is this street highly utilized? And we had answered yes, and the question was being asked from, is it highly utilized from a public perspective? We were answering from, it's highly utilized from our perspective, and so I wanted to clarify that because there was some confusion last time we discussed, and we saw that in the data that we pulled. We only see about 10 cars an hour, which we sampled over multiple days, multiple times throughout the day, and so we feel like 10 cars an hour is pretty low usage of public traffic. Now, we use it tremendously. We use it a little over 60 times a day, and that's conservative, and that's forklift traffic, that's foot traffic and things like that, and so we do use it tremendously throughout the day, from very early in the morning to very late in the evening. And so ultimately on page 3, what our proposal is we'd like to close 27th Street, and given that we operate on both sides of it, and given that we feel like it has low public usage and high Cameron usage, certainly recognize that it's a benefit to Cameron, but we do think it's a benefit to others. A few benefits. One is we invited our Ward 7 councilman out to review our proposal, review the site, and understand it. He supported the proposal. He felt like it was a reasonable proposal, and his intent is when if and when it makes it to City Council, that he would support it. I clarified that with him. I said, are you comfortable with me saying that here today? And he said that he was. A second benefit is the safety benefit, and I don't think this is one that should be overlooked. I believe it's a safety benefit both for Cameron employees. We're on forklifts, we're on foot traffic. I understand it's currently a public street, but ultimately that's one of the reasons we're requesting that to change. We do use it extensively given that we have both sides of the street. Public traffic is not necessarily aware of our usage of it, and we do have incidences. Actually, since the last time presented, we've had 2 close calls where a car almost hit a forklift and had to swerve to miss it. You've got additional risk in the evening when it's dark and things like that, because we do operate a late second shift that can be out there until 2 in the morning. The regular shift goes till 12:30, but with overtime we go till 2 in the morning, so a lot of opportunity. But I feel like it's a safety benefit from both sides. The other thing is we haven't had any objections. We do maintain a good presence with our neighbors. We didn't get any objections from those. We didn't get any objections from traffic or safety, and just believe it's a good positive. The other change, in addition to reaching out to John and having him visit the site and getting his positive feedback from last time, was in regards to truck traffic. We do have quite a bit of activity on Phillips Street that at times can queue up on that street. We would propose as a piece of that working with our truck vendors and having them queue up on 27th Street. So it would provide a benefit to the public on Phillips Street, in that when they queue up, they would not be providing any impedance or risk or obstacles to that traffic. So that is something that an additional change, in addition to having John visit the site. And then finally, we don't feel like we impact access to 35. Going north on 35, you're going to go to 25th Street, and going 35 on south, you're going to use Phillips, and we're going to improve the amount of traffic on that with with the support of the commission. What questions?
Let me ask a question, just because I didn't understand something you said earlier. You said you use this 60 times a day, or 60 times a day?
Correct.
And you said that vehicular traffic is roughly 10 vehicles an hour times, let's say, 16 hours to make it a reasonable time frame for use early morning to sometime in the evening. So I'm coming up with 2.5 times the public use than I hear Cameron's use.
Sure. My comparison wasn't necessarily in terms of indicating that. I feel like that's a little bit of an apples to oranges. My comparison more was to any other standard street, comparing car traffic, because that was a concern in previous discussions, is that a question had been asked in regards, is this a highly utilized street? From our perspective, 10 cars an hour is pretty low usage. We were answering the high utilization from it being Cameron highly utilized because of all the foot traffic, because of all the forklift and material handling traffic. 10 cars an hour, that'd be, one car, every 6 minutes or so.
And 60 times a day would be one person or forklift every 30 minutes or something. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this.
Right,
And I think also it's not really just a numbers game. It's a public street, it's open to the public, as long as it's used by the public. It's held in trust for the public and for the public's use. I understand that it would benefit the company. And I don't mean to denigrate the fact that there may be an argument to be made in terms of safety, but I think there probably are other ways to deal with that. I'm not sure it's really appropriate for us to consider closing a public street that's used by the public, whether it's 10 times an hour or 100 times an hour. If it's having gone to court to close and vacate streets, I know it doesn't come down to how often.
Well, it's not being closed. This is my other point. It's available to your employees both east and west. You're not closing the street. You're closing the street for people whose tax dollars paid for the building of this to go from there, from Phillips to High, and then up and down. You've got 60, like John said, you've got a lot of 10 an hour. Well, there's 10 folks that's their route. And then but you're not closing it. One of the aspects of the changes, which I did like, was the truck queuing issue. Taking that off of Phillips. Is it taken off of Phillips entirely? The queuing?
To queue up, yes, that would be the intent.
Can you control that?
Yes, because we have control of that truck traffic. They're ultimately our vendors, and we can have them queue up on 27th Street. I would say that we are a very active facility, a fairly small area to support 400 employees in the business we have. So there is an amount of truck traffic that could be a benefit to the folks on Phillips Street. One thing I would mention to your comment is immediately, it's a very small distance to 26th Street, which is above, which provides very good access between Phillips and High. So it's a very small amount north. I think you can see it on slide 4. It was highlighted there in blue just to demonstrate that route. Certainly understand your point, but we did look at that in an effort to do that. The other thing I would mention is that this did go to the public, and we had no objections to it. We even reached out to a neighbor or two and met with them face-to-face and said, would you have a problem? And they said no. And one of their comments was, if you could reduce the truck traffic, that's something we'd be in support of. Brought John out as well.
I've struggled, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I am reminded, though, of our recent application with respect to the Bob Howard dealership, which all they wanted to do was close Broadway Place behind their dealership. Effectively, they owned the whole strip, and we were relatively clear with our preference on that particular application of the same thing. That's a public street. It's used by the public, and as I recall, that usage was significantly less than 10 trips an hour. In fact, the numbers there said basically the traffic is coming to our store. So, and it's not necessarily a Cameron issue and a neighborhood issue. I think it's our role as a commission representing the interests of the city with respect to public streets. And this street is open, viable, used, and there's not much difference in the two other than, quite frankly, your street's used a lot more than the other one.
Yeah. I've struggled with the whole idea of closing this street. I'm relatively familiar with the area and know a little bit about the neighborhoods in this area. Some of the struggles is how traffic is going to be diverted to either 25th or 29th. There's really no way to determine whether or not, if you're going north or south on I-35, that you would necessarily use either in reference. The left turn on 29th Street trying to get to 35 with the congestion of traffic on 29th Street is a real concern. Also have a concern for, though it seeing our responsibility in terms of keeping streets, open and maintained and those kinds of things, that there would also be concern with forklifts moving back and forth with parts on pallets and other things, having very little visibility, and with the traffic coming through there, I don't know at what rate, they might be moving through there, that I could see the logic in being able to really close that street in public interest for people who are moving back and forth through that area. You brought up something a little bit about your trucks being able to stage just for loading and unloading and getting off of Phillips and on 27th Street. Are your, I know you have shipping back and forth all day, but is the primary traffic of your trucks in the morning, in the evening? Is there a particular time where it's more heavy than other points?
Given it's fairly active throughout the day. There's not necessarily if that truck traffic moved off of Phillips, I would say it's a little bit worse in the morning, just because at times they will arrive prior to us being there. They'll arrive very early in the morning. So
trying to get them to avoid the traffic, really.
Right. From a queue perspective, it's probably a little bit worse in the morning. So, when people are going to work and stuff, that truck traffic would be relocated on 27th Street and not provide that obstacle for people to get around, because they're having to get around on Phillips is a reasonably narrow street, and two-way traffic trying to avoid one, if not multiple 18-wheelers can be obstacles, especially at rush hour. But they'll be there early in the morning waiting for us, and then it queues up a little bit. So as we work through that initial queue up, but decent amount of truck traffic throughout the day.
Commissioners, we've heard this case. This is the 5th time it's been on our agenda, and we've heard, I think, all of the issues discussed that could possibly arise. So unless somebody has something to add, I think we should take a motion and send it on to council.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. I move for adoption of closing street.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, so we can vote.
Okay.
And the motion is?
Motion is to approve the application.
Approve. Let me make a statement before we vote. I've been by that area several times. We're not really going to increase traffic or decrease traffic. They're still going to use their trucks. And I don't see, that many cars coming through that street anyway. I've been over there 3 different times. It's basically their traffic that's using it. I don't have a problem with
And I appreciate that. Just one comment was, when we got, we are serious about being good neighborhood partners, and that's why we went forward with this when we didn't get any pushback. We felt like that was a pretty good indicator. And then when we went out and we have a relationship with some of the neighbors and went out and talked to them and got their feedback. And then went the extra step and invited John out. And again, John intends to support. And so we felt like we had pretty good review, pretty good support from, I certainly see your point about a public street, but given the people that are around it not having, and then the Ward 7 councilman giving his support, we felt like we had the momentum of what was a reasonable idea.
One addition, perhaps, on the motion is I think if I'm going to vote in favor of this, I'd like to see some TE relating to the queuing of the trucks prohibited on Phillips Street, that they will all be queued on 27th Street. Can we do that?
Can't do that, Bob, and never enforce it. And, he says
enforce most of the stuff we do anyway.
They control them, but when I pull that truck in there,
right,
I'm going to park it where I want to park it.
The man just said we can control that.
Well,
I'm telling you, he can't.
I don't agree with him either.
Well,
you're going to have vendors that have never been to you got a regular guy that you can say, hey, Joe, you pull around here to the side. You're going to have new vendors, never been to your facility. They're truckers. They pull up, they want to driving the truck. When the truck stops, they don't make any money.
Yeah,
you can't change it. You're not going to add anything.
Well, but I could disagree. You were disagreeing with my position. I'd like to.
We're done discussing. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we could keep going all afternoon. Everybody's ready to vote? Cast your votes. The motion is denied 5-3. The street stays open, at least until you go to council. Thank you.
Item 16 is ABC 808 for ABC 1 overlay of PUD 707 located at 801 Northwest 122nd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This is our third time here. I think we've all made our positions clear. For Mr. Ehlers, I would say the last time we did take a vote, the vote was 4-3 in favor of approving the ABC. So we just request another vote.
Gee, I can't remember how I voted last time.
And you've looked, and there's no way you can modify that 138,000 square feet.
Not at this time.
Okay.
You've been there several times, and we kind of looked at the modification, and there's no way that you can do it.
We don't think it's practical at this point.
Okay.
No one has signed up, and we've heard this case, as the gentleman says, a couple times before.
I'll move approval. Let's get it out of our hand.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 16. Cast your votes. 5-2. It's approved.
Thank you.
Item 17 was continued. Item 18 is PUD 1548 to rezone 15,000 North Post Road from AA to PUD 1548.
Good afternoon, Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates here on behalf of the applicant. Also, Caleb McCallum is here, and he is the applicant, one of the applicants. This is a rezoning of a piece of property that is a gorgeous piece of property full of trees, and we intend to keep every tree we can. It also has a lake on it. We intend to expand on that lake and provide additional water in the area. This is a RA PUD. Very similar to what we did in Stone Mill, same kind of application. We want to do curb and gutter streets, but in a rural setting. One thing that we've been working with the staff on is the fact that the City of Oklahoma City and the City of Edmond have entered into an agreement for shared water use recently, probably 2 months ago, and it was approved by the Water Trust and the City Council. The method of how that's going to work out has not been determined yet. City staff is working on that, and we're going to be pushing on the city staff to get that resolved so that we can use Edmond water for both fire protection and domestic use here. We have agreed to add a TE to this, to staff report, to satisfy the utilities concerns, and I gave the wording to JJ. I'll paraphrase by saying that should for some reason we cannot make that connection, then we would reduce the number of lots to allow for well systems as well as the aerobic systems that will be used out here. With regard to the TEs, we agree with 1, 3, and 4, and the new one I added 5. I would like to discuss TE number 2, which is we put some language in the PUD with regard to sidewalks in areas that cannot physically be built safely. And we added that to this PUD because specifically on our northwest corner, the creek that relieves the flow in this pond is very steep adjacent to 150th and Post Road right at the corner. There's not enough right-of-way without building a bridge or something to cross this very large creek to create a sidewalk around that corner until the streets are improved at some point in time. So we would ask that that language be left in there, and if we can, after we do detailed topo on our paving plans, if we can determine we can get around that corner safely, we'll leave it in. But if it means we have to push the sidewalk up to the rural edge of paving, we don't recommend that from a safety standpoint. So that's why we'd like to leave that in there.
But it could be 6 feet wide.
Well, it could be, but still on the edge of a rural road, you don't have any curb protection.
I don't disagree. I mean, but I don't know why we would put sidewalks right up to the edge of a curb, period.
But Tim, isn't that what TE 2, isn't that what it says? That you don't have to do it if you think that safety is compromised?
No, they're asking us to remove that language. We have that language in the PUD now.
Oh.
And the staff is asking us to take it out.
Well, no.
Could we add some provision that when the street is improved and it can be done at a later time, that it'll be done then?
Sure. I would assume that if there's a bond issue street improvement in there, they'll put the sidewalks in. It could be 20 years from now. That's our only concern. We don't want to be forced to design something that's not safe.
And I can tell you that if we require him to do it, he can go to the Board of Adjustment and they'll say, oh, never mind.
I would never think of that.
They're there because we're supposed to grant, we're the Board of Adjustment, we're supposed to grant variances. Is that what you're telling me?
I think that's right.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with what he's saying. If it's a question of, we also had a case recently that it seemed so completely obvious that it was physically impossible to do what was being required that I didn't even understand why they had to come to the Board of Adjustment to get permission not to do it. I mean, it just wasn't possible to do. So I don't have a problem with that.
Any other discussion? No one signed up.
Chairman, I'd move approval with the modification, TE2, or taking out TE2. I don't care which, whatever works best for staff. I went and looked at this site, and I defy you to build a sidewalk there. Unless you have a lot of bridge beam.
You've got it. You've got TE language already? For 5, up to TE5, okay. Okay, we have motion second to add TE5 and approve item 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cast your votes.
Thank you.
It's approved, and there you are.
Thank you.
Chairman, we need to go back to item 15. On that case, there was a motion for approval that failed. So there needs to be a motion for denial if that's what the commission desires to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to.
There was a motion for approval and it failed.
Right.
That does not mean the application is denied. There's no action taken then.
I move denial.
Second.
Okay, all right. We have a motion to deny item 15, which means.
Can I ask a quick question? Are we able to request no recommendation and it be passed on to the council?
If this vote does not come out one way or the other, you do, yes.
Okay.
So the idea, obviously, is you
I think
reverse
we need
your
to- I
vote
want-
if you don't change your mind.
Yeah, I want a recommendation.
If you voted to approve it before, you understand?
You'll vote to deny
You'll
it this
vote to
time?
deny this?
I thought the motion was to approve. It was to approve it, and it
Was to
failed.
approve the street closing, the motion failed, so we now have to have a motion to deny the street closing.
So
And
you're
that's the
gonna vote-
motion before you. Cast your votes.
What? It's two different guys.
Yep, same vote.
It's denied.
5-2.
It is denied with our denial.
Okay, item 19, PUD 1549 to rezone 4105 West Memorial Road from R1 to PUD 1549.
Since we took a moment to do that, could I just take a moment to say that, excuse me, my vote especially on that item has nothing to do with the fact that we think that you're not a great company and that you're doing good work and all that good stuff. We love it that you're a good corporate citizen, and it may very well be that there are other solutions to your issue, to get ground guides out there, you can just make it so inconvenient that people will stop using the street, stop traffic while you're crossing, or, whatever, get crossing guards or whatever, but
It's a policy.
It's not anything negative about you or even about the idea. It just, as a policy, yes, and the fact that it's a public street and it's being used by, that's all it is.
We like you guys.
We like you guys a
We
lot.
support your business, but this is...
Absolutely.
To close the street.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
So-
Thanks for the clarity.
Thank
And
you.
it was
Didn't mean to
denied.
cut you off, too. So.
Thank you.
It's all right. I hope you make me feel that warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Again, Tim Johnson on behalf of the applicant. This is anybody who's familiar with this piece of property, you know that there's very limited space to develop on this tract because of the floodway and the floodplain that occupies about the north half of this tract of land. So we're proposing the rezoning for O2 primarily, and with a little bit of commercial use. It's proposed to be a multi-story office building. The primary use will be O2 office uses, but we wanted to add in some commercial uses for a coffee shop, a restaurant on the main floor. We do agree with all the technical evaluations and would ask for your approval.
I had one question about this. Your freestanding accessory signs, I can see where it says that all freestanding signs shall be ground signs. When they say all, of course, I always wonder, how many are we talking about here?
It specifies two.
It does? I guess I missed that part. I still don't see it, but I'll take your word for it.
It's 9.9.1, there shall be two freestanding signs. Period.
Maximum.
My staff report doesn't say there will be two freestanding signs.
Sorry, I'm reading in the actual PUD. The PUD says two.
Ground signs, yeah.
Okay.
Our staff report doesn't say there'll be only two signs. PUD says there will.
Well, and the staff report also specifically says that non-accessory signs will be prohibited.
Yes.
That's correct.
And we all know what a non-accessory sign is, but because of the location of this site, I'm wondering if we want to say billboards too.
Good point. Why don't they say billboards?
Well, there are other non-accessory signs.
But everybody knows what that means.
Well, except our permit desk in some situations.
That's right. There are other kinds of non-accessory signs besides billboards.
Correct.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 19. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you, Tim.
Item 20, ABC 813 for an ABC1 overlay of the C3 district located at 3264 Southwest 44th Street.
Hello, my name is Cesar Rios.
Come, put it close to you and then...
Oh, short guy, I'm
That's
sorry. My name is Cesar Rios. This is my aunt, Blanca Tapia. She's the one trying to get approved for this alcohol permit.
The question I have is the convenience store across the street, does it sell beer?
Yes, sir.
Sure. No one signed up.
I move approval of the application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 20. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item 21 is C-6630, the final plat of Valencia Park Edition, Section 18, located south of Northwest 192nd and west of Penn.
Good afternoon, Chris Anderson with SMC Consulting Engineers representing the developer. We've read the staff report and agree with all the TEs and request approval of the final plat.
No one signed up, commissioners? We have a motion and a second to approve item 21. Cast your votes. And you're approved.
Thank you very much.
The remaining items are continued.
They are. So now we are to Planning Commission committees. We only have one that never meets, so we... Isn't that the Garage Front Committee or something? We may want to consider deleting that from future staff reports until we have a committee.
Are you on the members portion?
No.
Oh. Where are you on the hurry up and get out of here part?
I'm on the commission committees portion. Now I'm on the members portion. Bob, what do you want to say?
I'm curious. Council, by unanimous vote, approved the application for the bar at 23rd Street with the overlay. Totally 100% approved. Not that we're chopped liver, but my question is, John, who is it that presents to council the reasons for our decision of that overlay? Are we represented? Do they pay attention? We're not anti-business, and we weren't.
Bob, in this situation, they came to us repeatedly. We made suggestions to change that they wished not to do. The reason they wished not to do that is they had already met with council and had assurance that it was okay. So in that case, we are chopped liver. But also, I believe there was confusion at the council level about the music. You know, we're seeing it as a venue with live and recorded music on a rooftop until 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
Some of the council members are seeing it as any other bar with music. Well, to me, there's a vast difference there.
But Nick, and this is my point, is that the discussion about that application had nothing to do with restricting a business. It's a pro-business decision. But when you put the overlay on it, it runs with the land and honky-tonk bar of whatever without any restriction on time, loudness, music, etc. Does council realize that that's what they've done? Or do they care?
I'm not sure all of them do.
Well, that's my point.
Now, in that regard, taking that a step farther, our planning director and I had a discussion the other day about ABCs, this one in particular, and she made me aware that some other cities do things different the way we do. And, you know, for years we've been saying we want to do different, and we're saying, well, we can't because it's all label. If there are other things we could do, I think those should be explored, and I would suggest to the commission as a whole that we do that as quickly as we possibly can and find out what, if any, options we have. Because right now, I don't feel that we really have many options. And, you know, passing something that runs with the land, eventually everything's going to have an ABC.
I know. Yeah, well, that'd be interesting for some sort of subject for the future, because, you know, at every meeting we have one or two of these overlay issues, and I said, well, okay. But then, the realization that it doesn't stay with the applicant. It stays with the property that's right there. It doesn't go away. Only, we had an application, didn't we, to remove one of those, that was there. Was that today?
Yeah, no, it wasn't today, but it was today. We've done that, and we've done it before.
Yeah.
Janice has only one comment, which is here. Let's go do that. Waiting for something else to do.
We've been discussing that, and I think that Development Services and Planning can put our heads together, do a little bit of research about how other cities structure their ABC uses, and come back and do a study session about it.
I mean, a reasonable SPUD response to that application would have been, sure, operate your restaurant till 2 a.m., but the rooftop during the week until some lesser hour, and then do something on the weekends that's different. That wouldn't have affected their business.
Again, all those options were suggested.
No, I understand, but that's the sort of thing the council could have and should have thought of and done.
And just to answer Bob's question, anytime you make a recommendation to deny an application, we explain the reason behind your vote on the council memo that's right in front of the council.
And so that was done at the Tuesday meeting when this was approved?
Yeah, but they also have the minutes of the meeting, but we actually put on the memo, in a paragraph on the front of the memo, your reason for your vote and your thoughts behind it.
I think the staff does their job, but the answer to your question is no. There's no advocate there on behalf of the planning commission explaining why they did it.
In other words, they're right. We're chopped liver.
We are only a recommending body.
That's right.
That's right.
And not every recommendation is accepted.
All right. Hey, John, sorry, I have a question. I know that we met twice in June, and I'm just curious because I'm holding up the schedule of regular meetings for the Planning Commission for 2014, and it shows only one in May, one in June, one in July. And so I was a little bit confused with Janice's comment in the email, but I keep this in my folder. And I had talked to Dennis and David Box about a case that was scheduled for the 26th, and I said, no, we only meet once in June. That's how we voted. And so we did meet twice in June. That is when I scheduled my family vacation. I'm just curious if this was actually the schedule that we approved, because it shows May 9th, June 6th, July 11th, and then one in October and one in November.
No, it's a filing deadline.
Well, I know, but...
Yeah, the filing you're looking at the filing deadline.
Well, okay, but June 12th,
we met.
June 26th we met, but it doesn't show it.
It doesn't show it, sorry. It only shows June 12th, July 10th, and August 14th. Okay. So I just sorry.
Gap in this gap.
I think what happened is this is what was presented to us in January, and we elected to meet two times in June rather than 2 times in August.
Okay.
You may not have been here.
Well, as I recall, Mr. Chairman,
But you're right.
we made that decision based on what happened last year.
Which was we had no shows in August. We wound up without a quorum, I think, for one August meeting.
What you're looking at is what was proposed at that meeting, and the commission changed that, and we have an actual adopted list. So that was...
Will you remind me when we vote in December to request an adopted schedule instead of relying on... Thank you, JJ.
Yeah. I think that's the answer, though, Todd. Planning Department. Development Services. Municipal Counselor. No citizens. None of you are citizens. We're sorry. Any other business? Motion to adjourn. We're adjourned at 3:09. Yes. Yes. Yes.